Welcome back to another episode of Back to the Futures, the official podcast of the Futures League. We are presented, as always, by 78 Sports. He's Matt Ferreira. I'm Owen Shadrick. Thank you all for joining us for Season 8, Episode 5. We'll get to our guest in a second. But, Matt, first of all, how you doing?
I'm doing good, just wrapping up one of my last semesters of college, but excited to keep going forward into the spring.
Congratulations. He's almost done with college, folks. And a couple of guys that are also almost done with college because they'll probably be in professional baseball soon are three guys that were featured on MLB Pipeline's 2024 Draft Top 100. Three guys from the Futures League 2021 season. It includes Kalen Culpepper, formerly of the Norwich Unicorns. He checked in at number 28. Right behind him at 29 is Jonathan Santucci, who played for the Worcester Bravehearts. And at number 44 is Ethan Anderson, who played for the Vermont Lake Monsters. Three guys who were all all-stars and all sensational players in 2021. We really hope that those guys get drafted to some good teams and make their way up the pipeline, Matt.
Yeah, high praise to them to be on that list. It's such a great list to be on, and congratulations to those guys.
Yeah, it's a great list to be on. And another great list to be on is to be on the list of head coaches in the Futures League. And we have one of the newest ones on this episode. Mike Gladu, the new coach of the Pittsfield Suns, joined us here for episode 5. He talks all about his journey getting the call to be the Suns manager, his time as an assistant on both the Suns and the Starfires, and so much more, Matt.
Yeah, we also dove back a little bit into his college coaching days and his playing career days, but he's originally from Western Massachusetts, so it's going to be fun to see him back there coaching the Pittsfield Suns this summer.
Yeah, a Western Mass guy who used to go to Wahconah Park in high school is now there as their head coach of the Suns. It's great to see. It's a great journey. We're really excited for you guys to hear this interview. Mike is fantastic. Anything else for the crew, Matt?
That's all.
All right, y'all. Let's kick it. Here is Mike Gladu. We are honored to be joined by our next guest here on Back to the Futures. He was just given the reins to the 2023 Pittsfield Suns. It's head coach Mike Gladu. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Any day, any day above the dirt's a good one. So we're doing well.
Yes, sir. Couldn't have said it better myself. And I mentioned it on September 8th. You were officially hired as the next coach of the Pittsfield Suns. What was it like getting the reins to the team, and what was your reaction when the Suns asked you to come on?
Yeah, so historic organization, right? So, obviously the flavor of baseball, is pretty rich in Pittsfield. So, to be able to get that call from Sander was awesome, and knowing that Jeff, has the confidence in me to be able to take this team where we want to get it. It was awesome news. Coming from a Division III school where I'm coaching now, used to having 50 people in the stands. So when you see upwards of 500 plus, and then when you're on the road to some of the bigger venues, it reminds me of when I played in the minor leagues. So it brings back that old school baseball feel. But yeah, really excited to try and keep going with what Chad Shade put together last year with CB. And just try and keep the ball rolling, if you will, and keep it moving in a positive direction.
Yeah, you mentioned Chad Shade. He was the coach last year, got an opportunity to coach at Nichols this year. We're very happy for him and had him on this podcast last year. He spoke very highly of the staff, including yourself. What was it like being an assistant under Chad last year?
Yeah, so, it's kind of funny. I go back to 7-8 years ago when I coached him in travel ball, right? So, he's just the same guy, a little more seasoned in life, but he, definitely brought just a good attitude and the understanding of coaching and going through, the life lessons that he has gone through and the ones that he'll continue to do on his way up through. But man, he's a lot of fun to be around. And I thought he did a very good job of, bringing the younger school mentality into baseball. It's a grind, but I just thought he did a great job, and I just love being around him. And once in a while he'd ask me for some advice. I would just kind of take my hat off and let him see the gray hair, and then he'd go ahead and ask. and I put together what I thought we needed at that particular point.
And you yourself, you graduated from Hoosac Valley High School in Cheshire. You're Western Mass through and through. You get an opportunity now, you said it, to coach a historic Pittsfield Suns team. Do you remember going to Pittsfield in your high school and childhood days and to Wahconah Park and experiencing those games? And what's it like looking back on those now that you're the head coach?
Yeah, so going from when I was a small kid going to watch the Pittsfield Red Sox play, right? Sitting in the stands and just taking in the smells of the ballpark and the food and the vending that they had back then. If I remember right, I think it's set up pretty much the same the way it is now, with some extra vending options that they didn't have back then. But man, and then going to watch some different teams. Berkshire Black Bears were there for a while. I was able to go and watch them, and it's just really neat to be able to go back. And I had a chance to sit in that dugout when we played the All-Star game my senior year. So I've been on that field and been in that dugout a little bit, but it certainly is a absolute treat and treasure to be able to manage a particular group of guys and helping them on their course in this great game we call baseball, and be able to do it there. It's just a lot of fun. So yeah, no, man, I remember going back and thinking about it, when I was little and where I was sitting and looking in the grandstands and remember them being filled up. So just an awesome venue. And at the end of the day, it's just really a pleasure to be able to do this.
And being named head coach comes with a lot more responsibilities, which I'm sure you're aware of, being the head coach of MCLA, which we'll touch upon later. But what's the recruiting process for Futures like, and how does it differ from recruiting for college?
Yeah, no, great question, Manny. It's almost like I have to say the pioneers before me built it, right? Built the Futures League, and they built it so guys come. So what I'm trying to say is, like, a lot of times being a Division III coach, we have to reach out to a numerous amount of recruits, graduates that are graduating high school looking to play college baseball to get down to that recruiting class that we need. Totally different with the Futures League. Guys are looking to play in this league. And there's a reason for that, right? It's a competitive league. It's a great league. We have some great coaches, the other coaches in the league. Everything just really works well. So, the success of the league is out there, and believe me, I'm not telling you anything you guys don't know, man. Guys are dying to play in this league. So I don't want to say it's easy to recruit, but it's definitely a different angle where you can really pick through, what your needs are, and going forward and picking up the guys that you really want, because they're out there and they just really want to play in the Futures League. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and speaking of those guys, it's around the time of year where you start to put those players together and start building a roster for 2024. Can you give us a little Back to the Futures preview about how your roster's looking and any guys that we should look out for?
Yeah, man, look out for all of them, man. We're trying to get guys that'll drink from the water hose. So we've done a really good job so far. I think we're close on our needs, with 5 or 6 returning guys who were there last year. So we've got some of those returners and quite a few new guys obviously coming in. But obviously we have the D1 guys with some touches, some D2 and some D3 mixed in there too. But man, for me, I'm like, listen, you guys know it. I mean, 65 games, that's a grind, right? It is a grind. So you got to find gritty guys. And that's what we're trying to make that team look like. Just a group of gritty guys who understand it's summer ball. And hey, baseball is supposed to be fun, right? So we have to remember that. But that said, man, we want to win baseball games, right? So, and when you have that many games in a short period of time, man, you need grit, and you need guys who don't mind getting dirty. And for me, that's what we're kind of looking at and what we're trying to put together this year, to try and compete with those other teams in this league.
And you just mentioned the grit and the level of guys that are on your team, be it D1, D2, D3. And we've seen a lot of guys from this league that are D3 and succeed in a D1 level. But do you see a difference in play styles between Division 1, Division 2, and Division 3?
For me, when I look at pitching, right, it's just the nature of the game. Like the velo at the D1 level, some of those D2 level, it's high, right? So for me, that's really the biggest difference. Look at all these guys work hard. They come from good programs. It's the baseball blood is in them. But then we talk about what God gave them as a gift, right? So a lot of times it boils down for me when I look at it, the difference going from, D3 guys to D1 guys, it's not the work ethic. It is the talent, but then when we look directly at the pitchers, man, it's just the velo that they have that we just don't see in those other levels. So I think that would be that's the biggest difference, really. I mean, guys still pitch a contact, man. At the end of the day, it still boils down to not walking guys, being able to find a way to score runs. But when you have that velo in your back pocket, man, it makes things look a lot easier.
Yeah, certainly different styles, but when they come together, it makes a great game in the Futures League every summer for sure. And in 2022, you got your first taste of the Futures League with the Westfield Starfires as an assistant coach. What were your first impressions of the league when you first joined up?
Yeah, so Denver had called me and said he needed a guy till his pitching coach came in. And so I'm living in Clarksburg, right? I'm probably an hour and 20 minutes from Westfield. Talk to my wife, who's the real boss of the whole organization. If you will, she gave me the nod. Go ahead and do it. So for me, I was only there for about maybe a month or so. That first bit of the season, for probably the first month, but it really was a grind for me because it was that hour and a half commute, and then get on a bus and then go wherever and then come back. Even the home games, hour and a half back, hour and a half over. But Westfield was more than welcoming for me, and that great group of guys there, and I had a lot of fun. But for me, that's where I said, "Holy cow! This is a grind for me right now." But man, I couldn't imagine 60 games traveling as much as I did to get there. But man, I love. It just reminds you about minor league baseball. That's really what like I said, the stadiums, the fan base. Everything about it, the early work before games, the no IO before a game, right, that we have now in the college world. All those things just bring me back to when I had the opportunity and the honor to play in the Cubs organization. And it really mirrors that. It really does. So for me, it was addictive. But then I just ran out of gas. I'm like, man, I literally, I can't keep driving here every day. So with that said, it was a great opportunity for me to get my feet wet a little bit, and absolutely loved being over there with Westfield and being part of that, and hanging out with the squirrel guy they got over there. It was a lot of fun.
And in Westfield, you were an assistant coach. How do you approach being an assistant coach compared to being a head coach?
Yeah, so I mean, 56 years old, 54 at the time. I just went in there and said to myself, I'm going to do whatever Denbro needs me to do. I'm not stepping on toes. That's not who I am. I'm there to help. And so I'm going to help. And the one thing I'll say is this, I've learned, you can still learn. I'm not too old to not learn new things, right? We talk about analytics and the younger piece of that baseball that's come true in the last 10 years. It's a big apple to take a bite out of. So when working with Denbro and a younger guy, man, I got a little piece of that and kind of learned from him too, which was great because, as a coach and as a player, you never want to stop learning. And you never want to get to the point when you're a manager or a coach and you think you've learned it all, because there's still a lot more to learn. But for me, it was nice being able to sit back at the end of the day, not have to, at that particular point in my life, make those important decisions on a daily basis for that grind, and just, aid them and just help them and just be there for whatever he needed me to do.
And we talk about, you talked about being an assistant coach versus a head coach. Did you have a different coaching style in the Futures League in general compared to college baseball?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I am who I am. And the only thing I think I have to change a little bit is I'm a small ball guy, right? So for me, bunting is an important part of the game that we have in MCLA. Traditionally, we really don't want to do a whole lot of that in the summer, right? It's a development for our guys. It's a showcase for our players in the Futures League. bunting is a part of the game, but man, I want these guys to get their ABs. So for me, I think the only small ball piece I'll try to keep in there would be hit and run. That's probably going to be a big one, trying to steal bases, obviously. But, so the only difference for me from going from the college coaching at MCLA versus the futures is, man, we're not going to bunt as much as I want. And man, it kills me. I want to put the sign on a lot. And I certainly did the last 3 weeks when I came in and helped Chad when Chad wasn't there yet and I was running the team. But I realized, at the end of the day, these guys are trying to showcase themselves. So, we can't be going crazy with all the bunting stuff.
And managing pitchers in summer ball is especially tricky, especially when school has put a limit on innings or something of the sorts. How do you manage your pitchers to meet those innings, but also use them effectively to win games?
Yeah, so I think, man, that's a great question. There's a lot to this answer, but for me, the first thing I got to talk about is the communication between the player and the coach, right? We got to know when guys have innings limitations, right? And we got to adhere to that, right? We got to respect the fact that they're trying to get somewhere. So for me, I'm old school, right? So I'm like the guy who has the piece of paper on my manager's desk going, okay, this is what this young man threw on Monday. This is what he threw on Wednesday. This is what he's got left for the week. Man, let's time it out. Because we want them to be there as long as they can be there, because it's a great experience, right? So we don't want to blow through arms too early, but we want to keep them pitching too, right? So that's important. For the starters, it's a little easier because they know they're on kind of a set day. It's the relievers that you really have to, you don't want to go to the well too much with them. You want to keep them fresh, but you want to keep them engaged too, man. Like I get it. When I played for the Cubs, I started out as a starter. I got banged up with my shoulder, so I went to the bullpen. That bullpen life is tough, man. You sit down there waiting for the bell to get called. It can be a long evening down there. So for me, it's just about trying to keep them fresh. But communication, I go back to that, absolutely huge. And then knowing, like, guys have to know, like, if they're banged up, man, they got to tell somebody, right? Again, we're dealing with some high athletic people here, so they're able to translate that over to us. But we just want to keep them fresh and healthy and keep them as long as we can, because it's a great experience. And last year we had a number of guys who, when they had to leave, really didn't want to leave, right? So now that's a testament not just to the Pittsfield Suns, but to the Futures League, the whole thing, right? Guys don't want to leave. And there's a reason for that. It's well run and it's fun and it's a high level of baseball.
And you touched upon it before about the grind that you had to do in your few months as a Westfield Star Fires coach and the more games in the Futures League.
Yep.
How do you manage pitching for more games, either extra rest days, or is it more of the same, much like college?
No, it's like, you got to start. You got to make sure you got enough starters, right? So, and it's kind of funny because in the Division III world, a lot of our arms want to just be starters, right? So sometimes we have to navigate through that with transparent conversations about, you're not a starter, you're going to be a reliever for us. But then when we talk about the Futures League, guys are coming as relievers. So it's a lot easier to be able to put that together. But like I said, at the end of the day, it's the starters kind of know, and then we get a rain day, right? So, hey, you're supposed to start tomorrow. You got rain. Now we're backed up a little bit, and it happens. So you just got to be able to have those conversations with those guys and let them know they're going to get the ball again as soon as the sun comes up and stays out there for a little bit. We can get out on the field. But I think communication is huge to be able to keep everybody in line and let them know and be transparent with those conversations of, you're not getting a start this week. Your last start wasn't too good. We need you to do some bullpens. We need you to fix this. And I picked up a really nice assistant coach this year. He was actually at Westfield last year. He's at Williams College. He's the pitching guy over there, Joe Bonamonte. So bringing him over is going to help. I was a pitcher, but it's hard to work with the pitchers and run a team at the same time. So for me, it's nice to have some guys around you who know the game.
Yeah, it's good to have that help and to have that communication, especially for summers like we just had, where it seemed like it rained every day.
Yeah, that was crazy, man. Chad would call me and say, Coach, listen, I know you live 40 minutes away, man. We're taking the tarp off. You can come down if you want. I'd show up my muck boots on and go help, But yeah, a lot of rain. But at the end of the day, we got everything in, and at the end of the day, that really is, trying to play as many games as you can.
Hold on, we'll get right back to the Futures, but first, we want to share a message from our friends at 78 Sports. Do you have kids playing baseball or softball? We all know practice time is limited, especially here in New England, not to mention the cost of lessons and cage time can add up very quickly. Save yourself time and money by giving your kids what they need to work on their game at home. Our friends at 78 Sports can help you put together the perfect at-home training setup. Whether you want to start small with just a tee and a net, or looking to set up a full cage with turf and a pitching machine, they have you covered. And I've used their stuff before. I've seen their facilities. They definitely cover everything. The team at 78 Sports design and install hundreds of at-home and commercial sports training facilities. So let them help you find the perfect setup for your space. Visit the 78 Sports website at 78sports.com. That's SEVENTY, the number 8, sports.com. For a limited time only, by just mentioning Back to the Futures, you'll receive a 10% discount off your order. That's SEVENTY, number 8, sports.com. Now, back to your regularly scheduled programming.
And flashing back here, 2015, you're hired as the head coach of the MCLA baseball program. What were the emotions like to be named a head coach for the first time?
It's scary and then it's not. You have to trust in what got you there. And for me, very transparent was the 6 years I spent with Coach Burrell at Williams College before that as an assistant. If I go back to that first day where I talked to Bill Burrell, and I know he had an opening for a pitching coach, and I was scared to death. I played in college, played in the minor leagues, but man, for the previous 10 years before that, I was a travel coach, right? So, it was a little scary getting in there. But then once I got in there and learned from Coach Burrell, the college life, if you will, and being a coach, when I went in and went in for the job for MCLA and went in for the interview, I was pretty confident. Again, it was funny when we talked. I can't, like, computers. I'm not very good at that, man. My mom made me take typing. Thank God, because I know how to type, or else I wouldn't have done it. I know nothing about, emails are tough for me. I get it done. But when we talk about baseball, that's where my heart is, and that's what I know. So I'm comfortable in it. So when I got the job at MCLA, I was like, great, we got to build something. So we changed the culture in the first year. It was a little rough when I first started with our team culture, but we did a good job at changing that and turning that around. And then recruiting guys. We're talking about Western Mass. We're in the mountains, kind of hard to recruit here. So at the end of the day, we've done a good job of bringing in kids from New England and New York State are probably our two hot spots. But at the end of the day, for me, it really boils down to just, if you know what you're doing, life's a lot easier. So I'm pretty comfortable on the baseball field and talk about baseball in an interview or going through that process of getting hired as a coach. At the end of the day, it's whatever God's want, whatever his path is, that's the one I'm on. So we'll figure it out.
And you had a fairly successful first year, going 11-18 after a season where the team had gone 3-23. What was the first thing that you did to turn the program around?
Well, I'm a transparent guy, so it's two things, man. The first thing we did was change the culture of the team. The first thing I did was make my guys who were there previous to me getting hired, who may have been sophomores or juniors when I came in, they were still in the program, to my freshmen that I had that first year. We're here to do a job, and it's got to be education comes first, and baseball is right behind it, and there's nothing after that. I don't have time for guys having parties and not keeping their eye on the prize. So that's the first thing I changed. And the second thing was I recruited. I went from 21 guys when I first got hired in November of that first year to 30 guys the following year. So did a lot of recruiting, was a lot of work. But at the end of the day, again, I'm talking to people about baseball, which I'm quite confident doing that. and it just changed. Things changed from there. Again, we haven't been, the past few years have been tough. But the MASCAC, and again, I know we're not here to talk about MCLA and the MASCAC, the conference that we're in, but man, it's a tough conference. There's some tough teams, and we get some good ball players out of the MASCAC who play in the Futures League. So, it's been tough. But this year we're going to see what happens, man. We're going to roll out 32 guys, and we're going to see where we end up.
And you mentioned the MASCAC and your recruiting. You would eventually recruit Austin Rachiel to MCLA, and you would have the chance to coach him with the Suns. What was it like to coach one of your players at both levels?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm glad that was able to happen. Austin coming to me, I don't want to look back and go, I don't know how I got him. I had known him for a few years before that. And he kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit, where he went to kind of high school, and a lot of his, older guys, his seniors when he was a junior, all those guys played. They won Western Mass. They went to the States. Austin didn't play a lot. So it really wasn't on anybody's radar. So for me, when we talked and he decided to come to MCLA, I was really happy. And you know what? He worked his tail off. I don't want to say guys don't work their tail off, but man, this kid worked his ass off. And what a leader. And I had the fortune the other day of talking to the Siena coach, where he is now for his 6th year. COVID gave us something good. And he had nothing but good things to say about Austin, even in the Siena program. So, and then coaching him with the Suns, right? So, it was just fun to watch him. It's just, it's just fun to watch him, and he understands the game. And a lot of those guys do. But for me, having a local kid that I've known for a number of years, be able to coach him in college and then have the honor of coaching him a little bit in the Futures League was a good time. Man, it's fun.
And like you mentioned, he would go on his way to Siena, but not before winning MASCAC Player of the Year. How did you go about coaching such a talented player? Did you let him do his thing, or same thing?
Yeah, let me tell you, Manny, you get a kid like that, you just let him go. You just crank him on the back and just let him go, man. It was just phenomenal to watch. And then, make it All-American for D3 and MASCAC Player of the Year. All great accolades for a kid who just deserved it. And I'm not saying the kids who get that, don't deserve it, but man, he just deserved it. Quick story, and I don't know if you guys will leave this in, but this is a pretty good story. We went and played Dean College last April, and 2.5 hour ride for us. So we get there, and I can't think of the manager's name. He's an older guy. Ernie's his first name. So we never played him before, right? So I show up Dean College, nice field. We're going to go take batting practice, and this captain comes up and says, "Hey, the freshmen forgot the bats." And I kind of looked around. I go, "What do you mean they forgot the bats?" He goes, "We don't have the bats." I said, "Well, the bus is right there. Just go grab them." He goes, "No, we didn't bring them." So after a number of why me's that I threw out there to these guys, I went over to Ernie. I said, he goes, "Hey, you're all set for BP, coach." I go, "Ernie," I said, "we got a problem." He goes, "What's the matter?" I said, "We don't have bats." He goes, "Your bus is right there." I said, No. I said the same thing. I said, "Man, these guys left them in North Adams." I said, "Do you have any bats?" He goes, "Yeah, I think I can come up with a few," right? So he brings over like these older bats, and it is what it is, right? A lot of the college guys have their own bats, but he happened to have a few. So he gives us these bats. So Austin's the first hitter of the game. I'm coaching third. He's using one of their bats. First pitch, he hits a home run with one of their bats. I'm like, oh my God, right? You got to be kidding me. So that's just Austin. He didn't care what bat it was. So that was a funny story, though. I'll never forget that. And I'm sure the freshman who I screamed at will never forget that as well. So it was good. It was pretty good.
That's an awesome story. That's hilarious. Before we return to Back to the Futures, we want to share a message from our friends at Zorian Bat Company. Rob Zorian started the company, Zorian Bat Company, in 2003, literally out of the trunk of his car in Davie, Florida. Within 2 years, he was selling his wood bat line to Major League Baseball and continues to manufacture the highest grade wood bats for Little League all the way up to the majors. Rob Zorian, founder and president of Zorian, says, "I started the company in 2003 to service all baseball players in the United States and beyond. And after 19 years, our mission has not changed. We are very excited to have the opportunity to work with the Futures League and wish all of our players and coaches a healthy and successful season ahead. For more information about Zorian, visit their website, zorianbats.com. Zorian, America's baseball brand. Now, back to the Futures. So we talked about MCLA, but you also were the pitching coach for Williams from 2010 to 2015. What was the process like getting hired as a coach for the first time?
It was kind of unofficial. I remember, I had found out that Billy was looking for a guy to work with the pitchers. So again, I went in, a little green, and went to Williams campus, which crazy. At that point, I had never even been there before, except for when I played against them back in college. But so I went into his office, and he explained to me basically what he was looking for. And he also, two things that I'll never forget. He also mentioned to me, he goes, just understand I run the program. So I just need you to, let me know, keep me in the know of what you got planned for these guys, which I thought was cool. It kind of let me know right away. He was the guy. I was just there to help him. And the other important thing I learned from him is never, worry about something until you have to. So I have adopted that. Never worry about something until you have to. Those are a couple of bigger things that I learned from Billy is, you got to be transparent with your assistants and let them know at the end of the day, one guy steers the ship. But you need guys, helping to get the ship ready to be steered. So, it was awesome. And then, obviously when you talk about a NESCAC school, their alumni base is huge. They have a good thing going on over there at Williams, that's for sure. And so it was nice to be part of that and meet a whole new branch and a whole different kind of person. Smartest kids in the world, they go there, right? So the one thing I learned working with them guys is you have to be careful. They'll micromanage themselves. So you have to give them little tidbits of stuff to work on because they're going to break everything down that you tell them, and they're going to make it too much, right? So basically it was, just for me, it was just, man, just be athletic. There's a reason why you're here. Let's just try and get a little more out of you. That's kind of the way I approached it when I was working with those guys.
And we talked about your coaching career, but you also did play, you've touched upon it, rookie ball for the Cubs. What was that experience like?
Getting paid to do something you love at the age of 21 is awesome. So for me, I went to AIC. I was there for 2 years. And then I was actually transferring to go to North Adams State to play for Coach Zavatero. And that never happened because in between when I was out of school for a little bit, there was a scout who lived in Bennington, Vermont, which is about a half hour away. He was with the Cubs. He had saw me pitch that summer. And he said, listen, Eddie Doramio, who was the scout out of Boston, and he did the whole East Coast for the most part, wants to see you. So we're, if you want, we'll set up something at UMass. You can go and throw to Eddie. So I'll never forget. I had my parents with me. They were obviously both alive at the time. So I went to UMass and I threw to the UMass catcher. I threw probably about 8 pitches, and Eddie, I'll never forget it. Eddie said, "I've seen enough," and I went, "Oh shit!" I guess that ain't gonna work. And then he said, "Come on over here." He said, "How about we go out to dinner and talk about a contract?" So it was awesome. And, flying, I hadn't flown much before, man. Landed in Phoenix, Arizona, not knowing anybody. It was different, that's for sure. And the last piece of that was probably when I landed and got to the hotel. There was a pitcher in AAA. His name was Gary Parmenter, who played for the Pittsfield Cubs at Wahconah Park. And Gary said, I didn't know him. He said, "What's your name?" I said, "Gladu." He goes, "Oh," he goes, "You're from Cheshire." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "You're going to room with me." I'm like, okay. So, all his friends, Mark Grace, Rafael Palmero, Mike Harkey, who was the bullpen coach for the Yankees, those guys were in our room every night. And I would come back because our practices were at different times. I would come back in and sit down. Grace would be sitting on my bed. "Hey, Mike, you don't mind if I sit here?" "Man, you're in triple. You sit wherever you want, man. I'm just an 8-ball guy." So, and then meeting Don Zimmer and Jim Sundborg and going out to dinner with Andre Dawson. Just awesome stuff. And I wish everybody could have a chance to experience that. But I definitely cherish those memories. A lot of fun. Yeah.
Did you take anything that you learned in rookie ball and professional baseball into your coaching career?
All right, listen, I could be here all night telling you guys stories. This is a pretty good one. So this is before you had scouting reports, right? But this is back 1987, man. There was nothing like they have now. So we were playing the Cardinals. Where were they out of? Johnsonville City, Tennessee, I think it was. Anyway, the Cardinals organization, their A-ball team, and they had a big hitter, a big lefty. And so the scouting report on him was, man, don't throw him fastballs, right? So I was a starter. I started that game. Johnson City, Tennessee. So our catcher would get the pitches from the manager. So Steve Roadcap was my skipper. So he, gave this thing for the catcher to call a curveball. Dude, I'm left-handed, 91, 92. Like, I'm not, fuck, this guy ain't getting me. Like, I'm throwing a fastball. I want to see this. So he puts down a curveball. I shake him off. Looks over in the dugout, comes back, slider. I shake him off. Puts his hands up. He goes, okay, fastball. I throw this fastball, and this guy turned on the ball, and it's probably still going. I think it hit off the Marlboro man in the right center field. Like, it was an absolute piss missile. So I'm sitting there watching the guy run around the bases, and everybody's playing the music. Fans are going wild. And I look in the dugout, and here comes the pitching coach. His name was Bill Early. He played for the Cincinnati Reds for a little while. So Earls comes out. He goes, Gladu, let me tell you something. He goes, the next time you shake off a pitch and something like that happens, the next day you will have your ticket back to Massachusetts. I said, you got it. Roadcap never said anything to me, but I know he was so mad. So I learned that, listen to your coaches, man. But if he swung and missed, it'd have been great. But that didn't happen. So listen to your coaches.
Yeah, we've asked a couple of catchers about that, calling their own games, or pitchers and catchers calling their own games, how that kind of works in the Futures League and stuff. But yeah, you got the lesson the hard way.
Yeah, I'll never forget it. That's for sure.
And then we talked about lessons you took from your playing career, but how about what are you taking from Williams and MCLA to help you now that you're a head coach in Pittsfield?
Well, I think you have to, so a little bit different. Like on campus, man, you want the backing of the student body, right? You want them to be involved. And for me, it's like, working with Pittsfield this summer when I get there, man, and the community is involved, man, I want to keep that involvement, right? So community is important. From having the little kids clinics to whatever can brighten up a kid's day, man, that's what it's all about. So for me, the community piece is important that I learned. It's important to have people around you who support the plan. And who love watching what you're doing, right? And they're not there to watch me. I know that. But they're there to watch a baseball game at a high level. So for me, involving the community is important. I got to keep that going. And then just being real with the guys, man, and just let them know, man, I tie my shoes the same way you do. Like I'm just lucky to be where I am. And I don't take a day for granted. You can't live like that. You got to appreciate everything you get. And so, for me, life lessons are big, teaching my guys life lessons. And, I find kids who it's weird since COVID. Our freshman class last year and the freshman class this year, man, they missed 2 years of high school. Pretty much they're like juniors or seniors in high school, So there's a lot of life lessons that the kids have to learn. And so for me, it's about, hey, being there to guide the guys in the summer, have them enjoy the game, which is a hard game to play, and just be there with whatever needs that they have and try and navigate through 60 games at the end of the day is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's certainly a lot of fun, and we are definitely looking forward to the 2024 season here.
I'll tell you, crazy thing last year. So again, Joey was at Westfield Starflyers. He's going to be with me this year. He's my stepson. He's at Williams College. He's the assistant coach there. My wife was the assistant GM at Brockton for the Rocks. So we were all over the Futures League. So it was a lot of fun.
You're putting your stamp in the Futures League for sure.
Yeah, man. I don't know if it's a good stamp or a bad stamp, but it's going to be there.
That's awesome. And Coach, one final question. This has been fantastic so far. You've told us a lot of great stories, but we're looking for the all-time number one favorite baseball memory that you have.
You guys are going to make me emotional, man. It's playing catch with my mom in the backyard. That's where it started. my parents, my dad worked at General Electric. He was second shift, never really around because he worked it when I was doing things. And, but that relationship with my mom, pretty special. And she was my biggest fan. There's no doubt about that. So that's my favorite right there.
And there is no better memory than that, sir. Not one.
Thank you.
Coach, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today and taking the time. We really appreciate it. And, good luck the rest of 2023 here as we head into 2024.
Yeah, boys. Listen, Maddie, Owen, thank you for your time. And I'll leave you with this, man. Suns are hot. Suns are hot.
Suns are hot indeed. This has been Season 8, Episode 5 of Back to the Futures, the official podcast of the Futures League. We got new episodes coming out all throughout the offseason. Stay tuned on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. We will see everybody soon.